Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment when everything around you felt like it was collapsing, but somehow one person in the room stood calm, unshaken, clear-headed, almost serene? And you thought, how are they so calm while I'm barely holding it together? We live in a world of growing noise, notifications, demands, global unrest, economic swings, personal crises, and yet there are those who walk into the chaos and bring order. They aren't born different. They've learned something. And so can we. We've all met someone who just seems calm, not just laid back, but unshakable. The kind of person who can walk into a crisis and instead of getting swept up in the panic, becomes the calm at the center of the storm. And we admire that quality. We wish we had it. But most of us tell ourselves the same story. They're just built that way, as if they were born with some secret code that we somehow missed. We think calm is a personality trait. But it isn't. It's a practiced discipline. It's not something you either have or don't. It's something you build. Think about physical fitness. No one expects to wake up one morning with a six-pack unless they've been training, yet we often expect emotional fitness to come naturally. We expect ourselves to stay composed, to think clearly in a crisis, to hold our ground in an argument without ever training those muscles. Calm is the emotional equivalent of strength. It's not flashy, but it's powerful. It's not loud, but it's effective. And most importantly, it's learnable. One of the most powerful examples of trained calm is Captain Sully, Sullenberger. On January 15, 2009, he was flying U.S. Airways Flight 5049 when just minutes after takeoff, a flock of birds struck the plane, disabling both engines. At 3,000 feet above one of the most populated cities on Earth, the plane was now gliding with no power. Let that sink in. No engines, no time, hundreds of lives at stake. And yet Sully didn't panic. He didn't scream. He didn't freeze. He radioed air traffic control and said, in the calmest voice imaginable, "We're gonna be in the Hudson." And that's exactly what happened. He landed the plane safely on the river. Every single person on board survived. It was called the miracle on the Hudson. But what made it possible wasn't a miracle, it was mastery. Sully had been a pilot for over 40 years. He had flown gliders. He had studied aeronautics. He had simulated countless emergencies. His brain and body had rehearsed crisis. So when the real one arrived, he didn't have to guess how to respond. He already knew. That wasn't luck. That was training. Now ask yourself, what are you rehearsing every day? Because we are always practicing something. When we respond to stress by yelling, we're rehearsing anger. When we blame others, we're rehearsing deflection. When we run from discomfort, we're rehearsing avoidance. And over time, those reactions become automatic, not because we chose them once, but because we chose them repeatedly. If you want to be calm when it counts, you can't wait for the crisis. You have to train in the quiet moments. You have to build small habits that teach your body how to slow down when everything speeds up, like pausing before you reply, taking a breath before you react, asking questions instead of making accusations. These aren't just coping strategies, they're reps, just like lifting weights, and every rep builds your capacity to stay composed. Here's the truth, calm people aren't less emotional, they feel everything, but they've built a system for handling those emotions. They've trained their minds the way athletes train their bodies, not to suppress the pressure, but to channel it. So if you admire people who are composed in chaos, don't just envy them, study them, learn from them, and then become them by training the way they did. Because when the moment comes and everything is on the line, it's not your talent, your title, or your intelligence that will carry you. It's what you've trained yourself to do. Calm isn't who you are. It's what you When we find ourselves in difficult situations, we often start to feel unmoored. The chaos around us can be overwhelming, and without something to hold on to, we can lose our way. It's in these moments that we start asking, why is this happening, or what do I do next? But the truth is, when we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, when we don't have a clear sense of purpose, we become like a ship caught in a storm, aimless, tossed by the waves, and struggling to stay afloat. This lack of clarity leads to panic. It's the feeling of being overwhelmed, lost, unsure. We need something to steady us, something that anchors us in the storm. That's where meaning comes in. Think about a soldier on the battlefield. In the midst of flying bullets, explosions, and chaos, he doesn't focus on the danger itself. He stays focused because he knows why he's there, his mission, his comrades, the cause he believes in. These things give him clarity and purpose. The stakes are too high for him to give in to panic. He can't afford to lose focus. In the face of uncertainty, he anchors himself to the reason he's there. His purpose isn't just something to keep him going, it's what keeps him alive. In the same way, when we know why we're doing something, when we understand our purpose, we can stay focused no matter how tough things get. Purpose isn't just a nice idea, it's a necessity. It helps us filter out distractions, quiets the noise around us, and provides us with the clarity to make decisions that align with what truly matters. Without it, we flounder. We react without thinking. We make decisions out of fear, and we start to lose our sense of direction. I've seen this in businesses too. Companies that are driven solely by profit often find themselves caught in a cycle of chaos. They chase after the next big thing, constantly shifting gears, reacting to market trends, and scrambling to stay ahead. But in doing so, they forget the why, the deeper purpose that gave rise to their business in the first place. They lose sight of their values, their customers, and their mission. And when the inevitable storm hits, when the economy falters, when competition rises, when things don't go according to plan, they crumble. The companies that survive, the ones that thrive, are the ones who understand why they exist. They know who they serve, they believe in what they stand for, and they have a vision that goes beyond just making money. The most successful teams aren't the ones with the biggest budgets or the latest technologies. They are the ones with a deep understanding of their purpose. They are anchored to a cause that goes beyond the bottom line. It's that anchor that keeps them steady when things get turbulent. When the market shifts or the competition changes, they don't panic. Instead, they respond thoughtfully, because they have a clear sense of why they are in the game. They don't lose sight of their mission, and that allows them to weather any storm that comes their way. So ask yourself, what am I anchored to? What is the purpose that drives me? If you don't know the answer, you risk drifting. When the storm comes, and it will, you will be swept away. Without meaning, you'll lose your way, and the fear will take over. But when you're anchored to something greater than yourself, when you know why you're doing what you can stand firm. Meaning is not just a motivator, it's the anchor that keeps us unshakable. It's the reason we keep moving forward, even when everything else is falling apart. In business, in life, in leadership, when you have clarity of purpose, when you understand the why, you gain the strength to navigate through the chaos with resilience and confidence. Purpose becomes your guide, and in those moments of uncertainty, it's the light that shows you the way. So take a moment and ask yourself, what am I fighting for? What am I anchored to? If you don't know, now is the time to find out. Because when the storm hits, you'll need something to hold on to, and that something is purpose. There's a moment in every crisis, whether it's a personal challenge, a workplace obstacle, or even a life or death situation, when everything seems to spin out of control. The noise grows louder, the pressure mounts, and we feel ourselves being pulled in every direction. It's in these moments that we often react, without thinking, overwhelmed by the emotions, the urgency, the chaos. But what if I told you there's a simple, powerful tool to regain control? It doesn't require equipment, it doesn't require hours of training, and it's something you already have at your disposal. It's your breath. We often underestimate the power of something as simple as breathing. But here's the truth. When you learn how to control your breath, you regain control over your body, your mind, and your response to the world around you. Neuroscience tells us that the quickest way to calm the nervous system is through conscious, controlled breathing, and the key here is control. Not just breathing mindlessly, but intentionally, with purpose. One of the most effective techniques for controlling your breath, and by extension your body and mind, is something used by Navy SEALs. It's called box breathing. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and then hold again for 4. That's one cycle. It might sound too simple, and for that reason, many people overlook it. But this simple technique has been tested, refined, and used by some of the most elite warriors in the world. Why? Because it works. When your body senses danger, it goes into fight or flight mode. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and your breath becomes shallow. That's your body's way of preparing for an immediate threat. But here's the catch. Often the threat is not a physical danger. It's a meeting that feels like an interrogation, a conversation that you don't know how to handle, or a decision you don't know how to make. And in those moments your body still reacts the same way, like it's facing a life or death situation. It's why your palms sweat before a presentation, why your heart races when you're under pressure. You're not facing a threat, you're facing a challenge, but your body doesn't know the difference. The beauty of controlled breathing is that it signals to your body that it is safe. When you consciously slow down your breath, you send a message to your nervous system. We are okay, and with that message, clarity begins to return. The urgency and panic begin to fade. You can think more clearly. You can respond with intention rather than react out of fear. You regain control. Think about a time when you felt out of control. Maybe it was during a stressful meeting or an important conversation. Maybe you were asked a question, and for a brief moment you froze. What if you had paused, taken a deep breath, and centered yourself before responding? What if instead of allowing the anxiety to dictate your actions, you used your breath to regain composure? The truth is, if you can control your breath, you can control the room. You can control the energy in any situation. In those moments of uncertainty or stress, if you can stay calm and collected, if you can slow down and focus, you become the anchor for those around you. You stop reacting to the environment and start responding with purpose and clarity. This is how leaders are made. This is how strong decisions are formed. And this is how you can stay calm, unshakable, even in the most difficult moments. But here's the catch. This doesn't happen in the heat of the moment. If you wait until the pressure is on to practice controlled breathing, it will be harder to do. That's why it's important to practice when things are calm, so that when things aren't, the technique becomes second nature. It's like building muscle. You don't wait until you're in a sprint to start running. You train every day, so that when the moment comes you're prepared. Breathing like a warrior isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning how to weather it with grace and strength. So next time you're facing a challenge, take a deep breath. Feel the calm come over you as you take control of the situation. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Reset your mind, reset your body, and watch how the chaos around you begins to slow down. Because when you can control your breath, you can control everything else. We all experience moments in life when things don't go as planned, when we feel as though the world has just cut us off or knocked us down. Our first instinct is to react. It's human nature. It's the quick, automatic response to a situation that seems out of our control. In those moments, we may raise our voice, we may feel anger rising, or we might act on the impulse to fix things immediately. We've all been there, rushing through life, trying to keep up, trying to do the next thing. But there's something we often forget. Reaction is not the same as strength. In fact, reaction is often the opposite of strength. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself angry because someone cut you off in traffic? You slam your hand on the horn, your heart races, and for a moment you let that action define you. It's easy to react. It's quick, it's instinctive. But what if you could take a breath in that moment? What if instead of reacting, you took a step back and paused for just a second? You might realize maybe they're rushing to the hospital, maybe they're dealing with something I can't see. That shift in perspective, just a moment of pause, can dissolve the stress and help you let go of the anger. What happened there? You responded, not reacted. There's a massive difference. Reacting is driven by emotion, by immediate instinct, by a sense of urgency. Responding is different. Responding is intentional. It's a deliberate choice. It's the power to make a conscious decision to act, even when you're faced with frustration, fear, or anger. It's the difference between being controlled by a situation and taking control of it. This is why reacting often leaves us feeling drained or regretful. When we react out of emotion, we don't have time to think clearly, to consider the bigger picture, or to choose our best course of action. We just do. But when we respond, we've created space between the situation and our reaction. That space, the brief pause before we act, is where our power lies. It's in that space that we can choose how we want to show up in the world, how we want to be remembered, how we want to lead. Consider an important conversation in your life. Maybe it's a difficult conversation with a colleague, a partner, or a loved one. The urge to react can be overwhelming. They say something that hurts, or they bring up a point that triggers you, and your body wants to respond immediately. You feel the tension rise in your chest. But if you can find the space, that small pause before you react, You give yourself the chance to think before you speak. In that moment, you can choose to respond with empathy, with understanding, with a measured tone. And that pause could save you from saying something you'll regret. In fact, that pause can change everything. A pause can save a relationship. Think about how many arguments have escalated simply because we didn't take a moment to collect ourselves. A pause could prevent you from making a decision you'll regret. Think about how many career or personal decisions we've made in the heat of the moment, only to look back and wish we had taken more time. That space between stimulus and response is not just a place to calm yourself, it's a place to choose your direction. But here's the challenge. We don't always practice that space. We don't always train ourselves to pause. We're so used to reacting that we forget how powerful it can be to step back and take a breath. But the more we train ourselves to pause, to create space between the trigger and our response, the more we begin to respond with wisdom, with care and with purpose. The more we practice, the more natural it becomes. And over time we build a habit of strength, not reactive strength, but a strength born of thoughtful, deliberate action. That space is yours to control. It's the moment where you choose to be grounded, to be centered, to be in charge of your emotions, instead of letting them drive your action. And in a world that often feels chaotic, that space is a gift. It's a gift that can bring clarity to your decisions, calm to your emotions, and strength to your relationships. So when life throws you off balance, remember this: between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies your power. We all know how contagious energy can be. If you've ever spent time with someone who's constantly stressed, anxious, or agitated, you've probably felt that same tension creeping into your own body. You can try to stay calm, but when the energy around you is chaotic, it's hard not to feel that weight. On the other hand, when you're surrounded by people who are grounded, thoughtful, and calm, you begin to notice a shift. The energy in the room becomes steady, and you feel your own anxiety start to melt away. The truth is, we become like the people we spend time with. The energy around us seeps in, whether we realize it or not. Think about the environments you're in every day. The news, the gossip, the endless drama, it all has a way of seeping into your mind, your body, and your spirit. It's easy to get caught up in the chaos, to be swept away by the noise and negativity of the world. But there's a deeper truth here. You have a choice. You get to decide who and what you allow into your life. And if you want to be unshakable, if you want to stay calm in the storm, you must be intentional about the energy you let surround you. Look at the example of New York City after 9/11. The city was in shock. The entire world had just witnessed a tragedy that shook us to our core. People were grieving, afraid and unsure of what the future would bring. But in the midst of all that uncertainty, one person stood tall: Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Every day he stood before the city, calm and composed, delivering daily briefings. His words weren't just about the facts, they were about hope, about reassurance. He didn't give in to the panic that was sweeping the street. His composure, his sense of steadiness, became a beacon of strength for an entire city. In a time of profound crisis, Giuliani's leadership was not just functional, it was emotional. It was his calm that calmed others. Leadership is contagious, and so is anxiety. The same principle applies to all of us, whether we're leading a team, raising a family, or simply navigating our own personal lives. The energy we bring to the table impacts everyone around us. If you are constantly surrounded by chaos, negativity, or stress, it will drain you. It will make it harder to think clearly, to stay grounded, to make thoughtful decisions. On the other hand, when you surround yourself with people who are calm, reflective, and composed, it becomes easier to rise to meet them. Their energy will lift you up, inspire you, and help you weather the storms of life with greater resilience. But here's the catch: it's not always easy to choose the energy around us. Life throws us into situations where we don't have control over the people or environments we're exposed to. We might work in a stressful job, live in a tense household, or be caught up in a friendship or relationship that pulls us into constant drama. But even in those situations, we still have choices. We can decide where to invest our time. We can create boundaries around the energy that enters our space. And perhaps most importantly, we can choose how we respond to the chaos. We may not always be able to change the energy of the world around us,
but we can choose how we allow it to affect us. If we intentionally surround ourselves with people who uplift us, who bring calm and clarity to our lives, we begin to change our own energy. We begin to show up differently in the world. Our presence becomes more steady, more grounded, more unshakable. If you want to be unshakable, if you want to lead with calm in a world that often feels like it's on fire, you need to be mindful of the energy you allow to surround you. People who are reflective, calm, and thoughtful will help you. People who are anxious, reactive, and dramatic will pull you down, and it's up to you to decide which energy you want to invite into your life. When you consciously choose the people and the environments that nurture your sense of peace, you give yourself the gift of stability. You equip yourself with the strength to face life's challenges, not because the world becomes less chaotic, but because you've created a foundation of calm within yourself. And when you have that foundation, you become the kind of person who can stand steady, no matter what the world throws your way, because the energy around you will always influence the energy within you. So choose wisely. In moments of chaos, when everything around us is falling apart, there's a natural instinct to react. The noise, the panic, the uncertainty, it's easy to be swept up in it, and when we do, we lose control. We become slaves to the circumstances, instead of masters of our response. But being calm in the face of chaos doesn't mean we're ignoring reality. It means we've made a conscious decision not to let reality control us. We choose how we show up in the world, regardless of the storm raging around us. Think about the most challenging moments of your life, the moments when you felt like everything was falling apart. In those moments, there's a temptation to react with fear, anger, or frustration. You feel like the world is closing in, and you're powerless to stop it. But here's the truth. You are not a slave to your circumstance. You are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by how you respond. You get to choose. In every moment, you are the author of your response. You have the power to decide how you face adversity. You can react like everyone else. Let the fear and chaos consume you. Let your emotions dictate your actions. Or you can choose to respond with intention, with purpose, with calm. You can anchor yourself to something greater than the circumstance. You can decide not to let the storm dictate your direction. When everyone around you is screaming, blaming, or panicking, you have the power to stand still, to breathe, to center yourself. You don't need to be part of the chaos. You don't need to get swept away. You can choose to be the one who stays grounded, the one who remains calm, the one who doesn't give in to the noise, because the world needs people like that, people who can hold their center, no matter how strong the storm. Look at the example of Captain Sully, Sullenberger. When his plane was going down, he didn't panic. He didn't succumb to the fear of the moment. He had trained for years, and when the storm hit, he remained calm, because he knew how to respond. He anchored himself to his purpose. He breathed, assessed, and acted with precision. His calm didn't just save his life, it saved the lives of everyone on board. His ability to stay composed in that moment wasn't a trait he was born with. It was a practice, a habit formed over years of preparation. Or think of the Navy SEALs, who face life and death situations regularly. In the face of danger, when the stakes are at their highest, their response is to breathe. It's simple, but it works. They know that in order to stay focused, they must stay calm. And the same is true for us. When we face difficult situations, when we feel overwhelmed, the first thing we can control is our breath. We can center ourselves and make a conscious decision to respond with clarity and purpose. That's the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is impulsive, driven by fear, chaos, and urgency. Responding is deliberate. It's rooted in self-awareness, in training, in preparation. It's a choice. And when we choose to respond, we regain control. We become the calm in the storm, the anchor in the chaos. Because here's the truth. When the world shakes, we need more people who don't. We need people who can stand firm, who can be steady and grounded when everything else is falling apart. We need leaders who can guide others with calm and clarity. We need people who won't let the noise drown out their purpose. The world doesn't need more people who react and panic. It needs people who respond with purpose, people who breathe in the storm and stay rooted in what matters. So when the storm comes, and it always does, be the stillness in the center. Be the one who doesn't waver, the one who remains calm, the one who doesn't lose sight of what truly matters. The storm will pass, but your ability to stay grounded will leave an impact that lasts. Your response is your legacy. The world needs you to rise, and now is the time to start.